So hopefully you guys watched the review of the Barbasol and Genesis Scotch Open. Obviously, if you're here in the preview video, you saw it just 2 seconds ago. But we talked about how successful the whole sweet spot process was, and that includes the bucket system. The Open Championship, we've got data that goes back to 2013. So I even feel more confident in the bucket system when it comes to this tournament, because the Genesis Scotch Open, we really only had 1 year's worth of data, and the Barbasol we had since 2015. So 2015 is still a good sample size, or a good amount of years for data normalization. So I'm cool with the Barbasol, with the projections there. Genesis was still kind of like a, not sure, because we only had 1 year of data. Kind of went with a universal approach with that. But here, I think it's solid. We've got enough data, enough information to make some good decisions. So hopefully you are familiar with the bucket system. If not, check out the description of this video. There's a bucket system video down there that'll explain all about the bucket system. I don't want to spend too much time explaining it here. I just want this to flow pretty easy and smooth and quick. So I'm going to go ahead, and again, you can follow along with me on the cheat sheet. Again, there's a link for that in the description. If you go to the bucket system, put a filter on it, and then we go by each stat category. So the first one is going to be last year's results. So with this bucket, obviously, we look all the way dating back to 2014, because the data starts in 2013. We go back to 2014 and see who finished inside the top 10 for each of those events, and what did they do the year before. And then we put them in these buckets. So golfers who top 20 the year before the event that they top 10. It's a 13.8% success rate. That's including all golfers from this bucket. Guess what? It's a 100% frequency rate, meaning every single year we have a golfer that finished inside the top 10 that had a top 20 finish the year before at the Open Championship. If you're confused at what that means, I'll show you. So if we were to go to, let me take a look at 2022. So we have our top 10 right here. As you can see, Victor Hovland was a top 20 golfer, because we look at this column here. He finished 12th place. Brian Harman had finished 19th. Dustin Johnson finished 8th, and Jordan Spieth finished 2nd. So you had 4 golfers that finished inside the top 20. I should say this, that finished inside the top 10 that had top 20 finishes from the year before. So again, I record all this data dating back to 2014 for the last year stat. And what it comes out to be, when we look at this, looking at the golfers, there's 17 golfers in that bucket this year. Pretty high strength of field, so it's a quality bucket. And the salary that goes into this is over $8,800. So when we look at this projection, it says 1 to 3. Remember, we round down with the minimum projections, and we round up with the maximums. And just to add another rule on top of that, there has to be a 2-point gap between the two. And we always round down with the minimum first. So as we can see here with the last year 2, this would be 1 to 2. But because this isn't greater than 2, this rounds up to 2. We need a 2-point buffer between the minimum and maximum. That drops us down to 0. I hope you understand. I hope that's clear. And we do that to every single bucket. So golfers who top 20 last year, we want to find 1 to 3 golfers, because that's what I'm projecting to be inside the top 10. Now, let's take a look at that really quick. If I go here, and again, you can follow along with me on the cheat sheet, put a filter on this. I do have a filter up there called DraftKings. Let's clear out all the last year buckets and only select one. These are all the people, all the golfers that top 20 last year's Open Championship. Remember, I'm projecting 1 to 3 to be inside the top 10. Now, when we look at salaries, look at how many guys that are 9K and above. We have 10 of them. So the projection's 1 to 3. How likely can you, here's some things you got to consider. We have, again, 10 9K and above golfers in this bucket. Let's just say, Rory McIlroy finished inside the top 10. He's $11,900. Remember, you still have to make a lineup that fits under $50,000, $50,000 or below. So if you start at 11-9 Rory, well, Victor Hovland could finish inside the top 10. And let's just say Xander Schauffele could finish inside the top. We could have 3. Again, the projection is 1 to 3. I keep clicking that one. The projection is 1 to 3. Those golfers that I just highlighted, Rory, Xander, and Hovland, they could be your 3 guys. You can't build, you know, you can't build a lineup with those 3 guys in it. It's just not going to work out. And even if it did, you're probably not taking down an optimal lineup. Or you're not going to hit the optimal, and you're probably not going to take down a GPP. So although the projection says 1 to 3, it doesn't automatically mean find 3 guys. Or even find 2 guys. Maybe you can only have 1. This is the thing that I've learned over the years, because I was very bullish on 1 to 3. Well, look at this bucket. Like, it's such a good bucket. Look at all the golfers are in it. I know there's about to be 2 or 3. So then I would load up, or I would try to make it work in my head, like Xander and Spieth, because of the 10 and a 9. So I got my 10-9 to start out with, you know, because I always follow the 10-9-8-7-7-6 approach. Well, there we go. I got my 10 and my 9. I just need to find my 8, my 7, 7, and 6. This is probably not the best way to do it. You know, you kind of look at it objectively, not like what works for you with lineup building. So is Rory the best golfer in this bucket? By just the eyeball test? I think so. I mean, I think it's not super close. It's close, but not like super close. I would put Rory in a tier of his own, and then I think we have a bunch of guys that we could pair up together. So it's really, how do you envision this breaking down of the 17 golfers that are in this bucket? Which ones can we just already cross out? Personally, I think we can cross out Molinari. We could cross out Herbert. From there, I don't know if we can cross out anybody else. I would want to cross out Jordan Spieth at $9,700. Now, I know it's an open championship, and I know the guy has magic beans and whatever, but I could see just not playing him at that price tag and being comfortable with it. And then there are other names up there, but this is also, this is I shouldn't say this has stood the test of time. We had 4 golfers from this bucket inside the top 10 last year. We could probably have 4 this year. Remember, we're trying to hit the optimal lineup. So even if there are 4, we could probably still only play 2 at max. But maybe we can do 3. Maybe it just happens to be that Xander's in the optimal, so is Tyrrell, and so too is Adam Scott. Like those price tags, 10-1, 9-4, and 7-9, that works out. And those 3 guys will be in the optimal lineup. And then we could also have Rory up there in the top 10, Cantlay up there in the top 10, but it's still just these 3 guys that were in the optimal lineup, and therefore the projections would still be successful. So you could also look at it that way. You know, maybe there are only 3 guys that finish inside the top 10. Maybe there are 6 guys who finish inside the top 10, but only 3 are in the optimal lineup. It works both ways. So I think you start here because you have just exceptional golfers to choose from. If you can somehow, and I think you're probably convincing yourself that these guys down here will be one of the dudes, because you don't see Brooks Koepka up there, and I know a lot of people are going to be on Brooks Koepka this week. You also don't see Scotty Scheffler up there. I know a lot of people will want to play Scotty Scheffler. So I know a lot of people are going to try to talk themselves into like, well, no, I want to play those guys, so that means I need to fit these guys into my lineup because of the bucket system. Well, probably not the smartest thing to do, but also not the stupidest thing to do, right? Because Rory could still finish inside the top 10, so too could Scotty Scheffler, but Scotty Scheffler could finish better than Rory in DraftKings points and even in finishing position, and that means you'd want to play Scotty over Rory. So you have to make those decisions. And maybe there's an alternate universe where Rory and Scotty are in the optimal lineup together. I don't think that'll happen, but it's possible. So keep all of that in mind. I know that's a lot of information and a lot of kind of like this or that, and be careful of this, maybe that, and whatever, but the projection's 1 to 3. I will start here when trying to think of the guys I want to build my lineups around. There are a lot of good names here. And the marquee tee times tomorrow during the strategy video will even give us more knowledge as to what we should do with lineup building. So those are your last year ones. I don't know if I want to go through each of the buckets. I think what I would rather, what I'd rather do is just inform you once again. You can find a cheat sheet, or you can find a link to a cheat sheet down below, and you can do this yourself. You can look at all the projections, go through each one of these buckets, and see for yourself, you know, what are the projections that are, again, what we're projecting to be inside the top 10, and then finding golfers that you want to build lineups around. So just to, again, go into this, if we were looking at last year twos, obviously we deselect one and just select two, and look at our guys here. We've got Scheffler, Rahm, Shane Lowry. So those three guys are 9K and above, and then we've got kind of a mix of other guys here. So again, the conversation would be, if this projection is 0 to 2, remember we round up here, and because this number doesn't go over 2, this has to be 0 because we want a 2-point buffer. So 0 to 2 would be the projection. You can be confident that at least one of these guys is going to be inside the top 10, but it's up to you. Who do you think it's going to be? You know, does it work with some of your lineups? You know, do we think Rory's going to finish better than Scotty? If so, then we don't play Scotty. We play Rory. And that's probably one way to look at this. Same goes with Rahm. So Rahm, Rory, and Scotty, those three guys, who do we think finishes better than the other? We probably play that guy and ignore the other two, because we wouldn't want to pair them up together. It'd be very difficult. Now, we did have an optimal lineup that had two 11K golfers in it. Be cognizant of that. I covered that in the past, optimal and GPP winning lineups. There were two 11Ks during the Open Championship. It could happen. It could. I don't think two 12Ks are going to work, or a 12K and 11K are going to work out, but it could happen. But either way, you don't want more than two guys from this group in your lineup. That's what the projections tell us, and I'm pretty confident with those. So, you know, 2 is the max. It's very close to being over 2, by the way. But even when I look at my max, or my conservative max projection over here, it's still under 2. So it's kind of, you know, reining in and saying, hey, you know, it's might not be the best. And if we want a little bit more information or data on this, we can look at our optimal lineups. You know, when it comes to this bucket, we've had one inside the top 10 every single year, but we haven't had one inside the optimal lineup every year. We've had, what, 6 years of data? It's probably got to be more than salaries. So 2017, 18, 19, 20. We didn't have a 2021, or did we? We didn't have a 2020. 2021. So 5 years? Did I not record an optimal lineup for one of those years, I wonder? Oh, for the last year bucket, we couldn't. There were only 4 years. That's right, because we didn't have a tournament in 2020 and 2021, meaning there were no results from the year before. So yeah, we have 4 years worth of data when it comes to the last year buckets. 3 of those 4 years did have a golfer from this bucket inside the top, or in the optimal lineup. So that's how I'd look at this, just to help you understand the bucket system, how to look at the projections, you know, any other data that you want to look. You know, these are frequencies. So how often do we have one or more every single year? Well, a last year 6 we've seen 100% of the time. Same goes with last year 3, a last year 2, and a last year 1. Now these numbers, because optimal lineups, you need salaries. These numbers don't require salaries. These go back to 2014. So we have several years of data. So keep that in mind. Top five frequencies are something interesting to look at. Same too are these optimal lineups. This bucket here, the last year ones, finding golfers that top 20'd the year before, start there. At least 1 or 2. You want 1 or 2 in your lineup, and just by looking at this data here, every single year we've seen at least 1 inside the top 5 from the last year 1 bucket. But we've seen 2 in the optimal lineup, which to me, if we were to go back to the last year 1s, to me that's like, it's one of these guys up here and probably something in this range. you know, 7,300 to 90. We could probably go up to 94, because if you like, if it's Rory, you know, that's me again trying to stretch things. Maybe it's Xander at 10-1, and then, you know, maybe it's Xander and Cantlay, you know, the best friends. Maybe it's those two guys together. You can build lineups very easily with those two guys in it. Or it could be a Rory and say an Adam Scott. Could be there. But anyways, that's how you look at this. That's how you analyze the bucket system. Look at your projections and then figure out, okay, what are our frequencies? Pretty high for 4 of these buckets. Well, that doesn't really narrow it down for me. Maybe I want to look at top 5s. Okay, cool. That narrows it down. Curious about optimal lineups. And then you have that data there for you as well. So all of that is at your disposal. The only thing that is not are the miscellaneous information. That's kind of, for me, it's like it's a beta. Like, I'm just trying to figure out, does it work out? Is it I should start adding this because it's been working out for me. All right, let's go to the last week buckets. So again, analyze this the way that you or the way that I have mentioned it earlier. We're again looking at projections. It looks like having a top 20 finish the week before, very important. So too, just not playing. So if you did play last week, you wanted a top 20. If you didn't play last week, all the better. That's where we find most of our top 10 finishers, as well as top 5 finishers. Now, a consolation, here's an interesting one. Golfers who missed the cut last week. We've seen one in the optimal lineup every single year so far, but not one inside the top 10. Meaning someone fell outside the top 10, but still was in the optimal, scored enough. I think that was probably Brian Harmon, I imagine. What year was that again? 2019? Oh, Justin Thomas. I the wrong person, but here we go. JT missed the cut the year before, finished 11th place, so he finished outside the top 10. But he was in the nope. I apologize. That's a GPP winning lineup. I think it was Brian Harmon, if I remember correctly. Yep, there we go. See, sometimes I've got a good memory, sometimes I do not. So Brian Harmon at $7,100. I was in a missed cut from the year. Oh, are we looking week before? There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Week before. I was looking at 2 different. Why didn't you guys tell me? It's not live. There's no way you could have told me. But anyways, we've got a missed cut from the John Deere Classic. Not inside the top 10, but in the optimal lineup. So again, just showing you how this works. I personally would rather find 6 golfers inside the top 10 rather than that random guy that's outside. Like, if I'm targeting guys inside the top 10. That's the easiest way to do it. But again, looks like 1 to 3 golfers who top 20 last week. So there were, well, John, let's take a look, like without any of the buckets selected. So when we look at this bucket here, we're looking at, well, here, how about this? Let me scroll over. So we're looking at this column. The green that you see are golfers who played last week and top 20'd last week. So we have Rory, Tyrrell, Tommy, Shane Lowry, Burns, Max Homa, Tom Kim. I'm not going to look at everyone, but when we look at the other golfers that are around them, so we have to make some decisions. Do we want Rory at 11,900? And I guess let me scroll up because we're missing Scotty. Scotty also top 20'd last week. So it's almost like, do we start Scotty or Rory? I almost don't even think. Let me back up. I think maybe 80% of me is saying you either start with Scotty or Rory. The other 20% of me is like, well, anyone else in the 10K range. That's where you start. But I'm feeling like it could be Scotty or Rory. Let's just take a look. I mean, we can really go into deep into the weeds here. So if I were to go to 2022, and basically what I want to try to find, like Jordan Spieth here, we're looking at last week and last year I'm trying to find a top 20 and a top 20, which we had with Jordan Spieth last year. We did not have with anyone else inside the top 10. We go to 2021, we didn't have a last year finish, so we don't look there. Ooh, we did not have such a thing in 2019. So basically what I'm trying to look for are last year ones as well as last week ones. And remember, the 1 indicates a 1 to 20 finish. So 1 to 20 from the year before, 1 to 20 from the week before. We can see Hatton here with a 14th place finish, but a 51st place finish the year before. Justin Thomas had a 9th place finish at the Scottish, but a missed cut the year before. In fact, the first that we see of this one last year, one last week, one would be Eric Van Rooyen, who finished 20th place. So not good enough. So that already kind of breaks that trend of seeing a 1-1, a last year one, last week one. And we also don't see it in 2018. Now, I'm not showing you of all the golfers that could qualify for this. In the future, I will with the website. But it is interesting when we look at all the golfers inside the top 10. Let's see. Let's just take a look at who missed the cut. Do we have one of those guys that was like top 20 or had top 20, top 20? Don't see anybody. Nope. So yeah, I don't even know how many times we've seen a last year one, last week one. I don't have those combination percentages in front of me. So I don't know if it's good luck, bad luck, whether it's even something to look at, or if it's a good trend, like a good performance trend. Let me just take a couple more looks here with other golfers just to see. Kuchar, we had $8,700. Almost had Rory there. A lot of people choosing not to play the week before, who had a top 20 finish the year before, which I find very interesting. Okay, let's see, 2022. Any other scenarios where we've seen this? The answer is no. Okay, so Scotty and Rory are in a league of their own, it appears. Not so much Scotty, I'm sorry, Rory. Just Rory. Rory's the only guy. Top 20 the week before, top 20 the year before. Oh, never mind. Tyrrell, Fleetwood. Yeah, not too many other options. Just those three guys. But hey, those three golfers pretty good. I would almost dare to say, don't pair up Rory Hatton or Rory Fleetwood or Hatton Fleetwood together. Because how often do you think we're going to see those guys inside the top 10? That doesn't really have substantial evidence or data behind it, but just going off of what I've seen in the past, I probably don't feel comfortable doing that. And I do want to play Hatton and I want to play Fleetwood, but this is also one of those wonderful things when it comes to this lineup building using the bucket system is perhaps we don't play those guys together. It just doesn't, use the data, use the information to our advantage. So we'll see. We'll double check with lineup building tomorrow. Maybe these guys will be paired up together and it'll make life easy for us anyways. So we'll take a look there. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these buckets. You can go ahead and do the research. Again, you can follow along with me on the cheat sheet, or you can look this stuff up on the cheat sheet. If I were to go show you that, all you do is go to the bucket system, put those filters on just like I did, and go stat by stat and look at all the projections. It's going to be the exact same thing that you see with me. And now that I say that, I can see that I forgot to copy and paste all that stuff. So let me open this all back up and do it live. There we go. Now it's been updated with the data that I am using. My apologies. Everything else is up to date. But you can follow along with me on here, or you can do your own research. As I go through this, I'm kind of giving you my favorite plays anyways. So it kind of does, you know, 2 for 1, basically. So go back to hiding all those things and getting back to the last week bucket, just really quickly, just to wrap that up. And look at our projections. So yeah, 1 to 3 last week ones. Those are golfers who topped 20 last week. Everything else is 0 to 2 that played last week. So don't play more than 2 guys who are in that 20 to 40 range, 2 guys in that 40 to 60 range, 2 guys in that 60 to 80 range, even missed cuts, 0 to 2. For golfers who did not play last week, you can go up from like 2 to 4, or as I see with the max projection over here, this isn't greater than 3, so that means the minimum would be 1. This turns 1 to 4. So if we look at last week's 6s, John Rahm is at the top. John Rahm, Cam Smith. Now, of course, I don't include live data in this. I don't even know if there was a live event last week. I guess if there was, I would include it. So if they did play, just use whatever finish they had and put it in the buckets that they should be in. And then look at the projections. You can also increase those projections. Like say if Brooks was in the last week 1 bucket, we could look at that projection and go, you know what? It does say 1 to 3, but I think this is going to be 1 to 4. So we play up to 2 or maybe even 3. Probably not 4. Yeah, do that if it's necessary. Otherwise, I think these projections are just fine. If we look at course history, which again should be tournament history, having the best course history, it looks like there are only 6 golfers in that bucket, and our projection is 0 to 2. I wonder who that is. I'm very curious. If you're following along, make sure there are no other filters on, and we're going to look at course history 1. Again, this is tournament history. Okay. Scheffler, Hovland, Spieth, Young, Finau, McIntyre. That makes this really interesting. Because if the projection is 0 to 2, I'm pretty comfortable with the projection not breaking. Like I don't want to play more than 2 of these guys. If you like Scheffler, I probably don't play any of the guys that are here. McIntyre entices me a little bit. So does Finau, I should say. But maybe that's how you get really narrow with your player pool, is maybe going Scheffler, Finau, or maybe even Scheffler, Cam Young, and then skipping everyone else that's there. Not a lot of golfers, obviously, but you know, interesting, because like I do like Bobby Mack, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with the rest of these guys here. I don't know. I'm not gonna bore you with it right now. I'll see what it looks like with marquee tee times tomorrow. No sense in worrying about it right now. Course history 2s 1 to 3. Course history 3s 1 to 4. Course history 4s 0 to 2. Course history 5s 0 to 1 or 0 to 2. Course history 6s 0 to 2 as well. So that's how you would look at it that way when it comes to the projections. I'm not going to look at a lot of these. Well, actually, we could look at this bucket. Course history 2s. I think this is fine if we look at this, because this is 1 to 3 and there are only 19 golfers in it. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look. Let's see, course history 3s. Course history 2s. Okay. Sorry, my apologies. Course history 2s. McIlroy, Rahm, Koepka, Schauffele, all 10K and above. And then we have DJ, Fowler, and Cantlay 9K and above. This is a really interesting bucket. Very interesting. 1 to 3. This will be an anchor bucket tomorrow. We'll talk about this in the strategy video. I'm probably ignoring these guys right here. Anyone in the 6K range, I'm probably ignoring those guys. Think about this. Like, we've seen Rory in a lot of these buckets. We've also seen Adam Scott in these. Well, I should say a lot of these buckets. 2 of these buckets so far with Adam Scott. Koepka. DJ. Oh, man. Super interesting. Remember, the projection is 1 to 3. 1 to 3 that we are projecting to be inside the top 10. Out of these golfers, who are they going to be? So, well, again, we'll see what the marquee tee times do for us. I think that's going to push us in the right direction. That's super interesting. Recent forms. Oh, man, all over the place. But having the top recent form is the way to go. So it looks like these top buckets here, recent form 1, 2, and 3, your projections are 1 to 3 for well, let's take it back. 1 to 3 for recent form 1s, 1 to 4 for recent form 2s, and 1 to 3 for recent form 3s. The rest of them are 0 to 2s. So that in itself is interesting. It makes lineup building, I think, easier, in my opinion. So 1 to 3 recent form 1s, we have a ton of guys 10K and above. These are your best recent form golfers that have, you know, under 20 for their you know, last finishing positions over the last 7 weeks. And then we have even more interesting names: Ricky Fowler, Tyrrell Hatton, Dustin Johnson, even Bryson DeChambeau, and Wyndham Clark, $8,700. Remember, the projection is 1 to 3 for recent form 1s. So don't play more than 3 if you do want to play 3. Perhaps, you know, if we think there's no way Scheffler doesn't finish top 10, there's also no way Rory doesn't finish top 10, and you also think Brooks finishes top 10, there's 3 guys right there. If for whatever reason maybe there's a, you know, a 4th golfer that does finish inside the top 10, I guarantee you no more than no more than 2 golfers will be inside or will be in the optimal lineup. So even if it was Scheffler, Rory, Koepka, and Hatton finishing inside the top 10, that means the rest of these guys do not finish inside the top 10. Meaning you just cut them out. But also, you have to figure out which of the 4 that you are projecting to be inside the top 10, which one scores more DK points? And then who finishes, who's in second place with DK points? What are those 4 guys? If it's any of these guys 10K and above, you don't pair them up. You only put 1 guy in your lineup. Or if it's Hatton, if you can truthfully think it's going to be Tyrrell Hatton, then you play Tyrrell Hatton. No. So it's interesting, right? Got to figure it out one way or the other, and who to play. Again, we'll see what the marquee tee times do, what comes out, who's paired up together, and maybe that just gives us our answers. But yeah, 1 to 3 for recent form 1s. 1 to 4 recent form 2s. There's 28 golfers there. This will be an anchor bucket as well. So let's go ahead and talk about who are in the recent form 2 buckets. So the remaining 10K golfers, Rahm and Schauffele, and then we have 4 9K golfers, Lowry, Fleetwood, Fitzpatrick, and Cantlay, and then some interesting names down below. These could be filler golfers, and I think that'd be fine if we wanted to fill our lineups in with these guys. So if you are making a stand with Brooks or Rory or even Hovland, we talked about them in the last bucket, then I would say you probably move on to try to figure out which guys down here are going to be inside the top 10. Because there is a lot of give and take with this. The puzzle piece, you know, putting the puzzles together, there's a lot of that going into this lineup building. So, again, hard to do anything right now without seeing the marquee tee times, but just the theory crafting when it comes to lineups is still very, very interesting to me. Again, we got to make choices somewhere. So that's going to cover the recent form buckets. I'm not going to go over the rest of them. Again, if you're looking at this, just remember we round down with the minimums, we round up with the maximums. There's got to be a 2-point buffer between the two. We always round down, or we always move this down first. If you can't, then you move up your maximums. So just like these two buckets down here, you can see it's 0 to 1. We round this one down, we round this one up, but because there isn't a 2-point buffer, and since we can't move this lower than 0, this gets moved up to 2. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's talk about salaries. I kind of mentioned this when it came to looking at the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups, because there are 5K golfers for the first time in a really long time on the slate. And they all fit in this bucket down here, which is the 6.5 and less. 77. Now, usually we see 70 to 80 golfers just in the 6K range alone. That includes the top 6K and the low 6K. Instead, we've got a total of 99 golfers in the 6K and below range. Now, we haven't really seen 5Ks, but we can still include them in the low 6K because that's the type of caliber of golfer they are. You know, if we were to take a look at the low 6K range, you know, and just look at some of these names. Let's actually just talk about the guys that, you know, we've heard of, or at least that I've heard of. And I follow a lot of golf. I've heard of Richie Ramsey. Kita Nakajima, I've heard of him. Shinkwon, I've heard of. I've seen the name Taiga Simikawa, but I do not know him. I've also seen Bio Kim, but I don't know a lot about him. Same with Aki Streetum, Connor Syme, or Seam. I've heard of him. Hiroshi Iwata, he was in the match play like 3 or 4 years ago. Obviously, we know Marcel Seam. I've heard of Oliver Wilson, don't know much. Antoine Rosner was in the match play a couple years ago. I wouldn't put Ernie Els. And why I'm bringing up match play is the top 65 golfers in the world. So there, at one point in time, we're up there. I'm not going to include Ernie Els, Sammy Valimaki. I think he's won a DP World Tour not too long ago. I've seen Hurley Long, but don't really, you know, I don't really know him. Kazuki Higa, I've seen. I don't even know if I should highlight him. Harrison Crow, I'm not going to highlight. Charles Schwartzel, I'm not going to highlight. Obviously, he's a major winner. He won the Masters, obviously. Not going to highlight him, though. The rest of these guys, like Shibanka Sharma, I think I was watching a DP World Tour either last week or the week before. He was like plus 11 or something. That's by memory, so maybe I'm wrong, but it wasn't good. Let's put it that way. You know, like Cali Samuja, I've heard of, but I'm not going to highlight. Jorge Campillo, I don't even know how old the guy is anymore. I swear he's been on tour for a long time. Nacho Elvira, I think his real name's Ignacio, but he was just in a playoff with shoot, I forget his name. DP World Tour. Who just won it? Can't remember, but we'll highlight him because he almost won a tournament just recently. Otherwise, the rest of these guys, I mean, let's see. Jazz Jane Wananan, he almost was dead last at the Barbasol last week, so I don't know what the state of his game is. There's not really anyone else to highlight. Alex Fitzpatrick is down here. That's Matt Fitzpatrick's brother. I don't really care, honestly. Don't care. Mark Warren right here. He's old. Probably don't care to play him. I've seen him in major championships before, but I don't. Yeah. So what did I highlight here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 golfers in this low, in this 5K range that I think is probably worth consideration. I don't even know about consideration. I don't think I would actually play Nacho Elvira, if I'm being honest, or Elvira. I would not play him. I also wouldn't play Kita Nakajima. Probably, I also wouldn't play Hiroshi Iwata or Kazuki Higa. Like, I'm sorry if I would say, because I haven't seen, you know, a lot of Asian golfers inside the top 10 of Open Championships. That's one of the reasons that I don't want to play any of those golfers. The other thing too is, a lot of these guys I haven't seen in a long time. You know, they're not in the WGC events, although we don't really have anymore. But the ones that invite the top 50 in the world, they're not there anymore. They used to be, not anymore. Which to me means they either are on a slide, like a downhill slide, or whatever got them to the top 50, like maybe playing a bunch of Asian Tour events. And because they didn't have any success in the PGA Tour, they've fallen because of that to where they probably should be, which means we just don't play them. But yeah, so what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys, 5K and below. Those 6 golfers, they're not going to ensure a golfer from this range finishes inside the top 10. Like, this is low 6K territory. Remember, like 2% or less. You want to play them 2% or less. You know, and then we look at the low 6K range. You know, Taylor Moore, he's a PGA champion this year. Tom Hoagie has won not too long ago. Same too as KH Lee. I probably cut it off there, if I'm being honest. I'm not interested in Zach Johnson. I'm not interested in Stuart Sink. I'm also not interested in Ben Griffin, although of all, you know, Ben Griffin can have a little consideration. So too can Matt Wallace, because Matt Wallace has won this year as well. You know what? I don't mind Tristan Lawrence. He's won on the DP World Tour not too long ago. Pablo Larrazabal, I don't mind him either, although his recent form is not good. And I actually look at DP World Tour events. So Larrazabal is down here somewhere. So I just have him at the US Open. Interesting. That can't be right. I must have him. Yeah, I probably didn't put him down right. Let me double check here. I'm just going to try to find him and see what his last couple events were. So he did play in the Scottish Open. Yeah, so sometimes when, I forget what they're called, but when you have like little tick marks above the letters of the word, sometimes that doesn't get picked up properly. So, okay, we do have a missed cut there. He did play Made in Himmerland where he had a missed cut. So, I mean, we're already looking at a missed cut average already. BMW International Open, he had an 85th place. Or, I'm sorry, no. 52nd place, US Open, he missed out. And then he played in the Calum Open, which was 1 week before the Porsche European Open. And he won that event. So we're way outside recent form territory. It's still not good. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't consider Pablo Larrazabal. I'd probably just unmark him. Thomas Dietrich is a name I don't mind playing. I do like Dietrich, but here we are. Let's actually unselect some of these salaries so I can see how many guys I selected. 13 golfers just in the low 6K to, let's just call it low 6K into the 5K range. I think that's probably all that I would play, honestly. I will have some exposure to most of these guys, but 13 dudes out of 77, you know, that are, in my opinion, worth playing. Now, you know, any of these other guys can obviously finish inside the top 10. You know, the ones that I haven't been talking about, I don't care. I'm not focusing on this range. I also don't want to depend on that range, and I don't think you guys should either. as cute as it is to maybe pair some of these guys up together at the top, don't think just because there's golfers in the 5K range that we just do it. You know, we went through the past optimal and GPP winning lineups. How many low 6Ks have we seen? Like Harmon, $6,900, $6,700 Dean Burmester, I guess $6,300, whatever that last name is. 2021, what did we have? 67. Dylan Fratelli at 65. You're not seeing low 6K golfers inside the top 10. And the guys that I'm highlighting, they're kind of name, except for this guy down here, Saddam, well, however you say his last name. Let's see, can we find any more 6Ks that are worth playing? Bobby Mack, that's a well-known dude. Again, no low 6Ks. 2018, Kisner, 69, 67. See, there's no 6Ks. 2017 would be the last year I have salaries. Chan Kim, 61, 11th place. Matthew Southgate, 63. And then 67 and 64. So, okay, 2017, we did have some low price guys. And really, you could have played three of those guys together. You could have played Hao Tong at 64, Southgate at 63, and Chan Kim at 61. Good luck. You know, good luck finding those three guys together. Or even good luck finding 67 and 63 together. Actually, 67 and 63, or 67, 64, to me, I've got no issue with. Trying to build a lineup like that, I have no issue with. But trying to find like a third one, pretty difficult. Pretty difficult. When, like, again, during this year, I did create a 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. So instead of trying to find 3 6Ks, you can find one and then pair them up with the other guys. It's probably much easier to think of building lineups that way. But this was the year where there were 2 11K golfers and 3 6K golfers. So keep that in mind. You can certainly build that way. But that is going to cover, I think, the salaries. We don't really need to talk more about that. Again, if you're following along on the cheat sheet, just remember how the projections work out. I think you start with the 10K range. Every single year we've seen one inside the top 10. Every single year we've seen one in the top 5. We haven't seen one in the optimal lineup every single year. In fact, I think we've only seen it 2 out of 5 years where a 10K golfer was in the optimal lineup. But I think just starting with a 10K just makes lineup building easy. I almost don't see a way one of those 10K golfers doesn't finish inside the top 3, or if not win it. So it actually looks like going to a 9K is also the projection for 9Ks. So going 10-9 seems to be a smart way to go about building, and then including a 7. And then doing whatever you want from there. 10-9-7. And a lot of our past optimal GPP winning lineups started that way anyway. So got no issue with that. I think that's okay. Okay, so the last piece to talk about with the buckets is going into the strokes gain stats. Now, I do this a little bit differently. I encourage you to watch the bucket system video down below where I actually do go in length describing what the strokes gain buckets are. But, you know, just for you with lineup building, go ahead and go into the cheat sheet, which you can again find a link to in the description below, and you sort by strokes gain stats. Everything is color coordinated for names. So what you're going to see is like the name to go with all of these buckets. They're all color coded. It's all based off the strokes gain buckets. So you don't even have to know what the strokes gain buckets are. You just need to know what identifies each of these golfers with. So when we talk about strokes gain ones, we've seen 3 inside the top 10 every single year. I'm projecting 2 to 5. Well, there you go. There's the 3. We've seen at least 1 in the optimal lineup every year, 1 in the top 5. We've seen up to 3. We've seen up to 3. So starting here, which seems pretty easy. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go. I'm wondering why the salaries were so weird, but Rory at 11.9. Rahm, Brooks, Xander, Hovland, all 10K and above. There's Cantlay there at 99, Ricky at 98, Spieth at 97. Lots of good names. 2 to 5 is what I project to be inside the top 10. I think that's a pretty fair projection. It also might be a little too conservative for most, but I think finding 3 of these guys and playing them, maybe not even 3, 2 to 3. Yeah, 2 to 3. So if you do like Rory, it's hard to pair him up with these guys 10K and above, although it can happen. But maybe starting like a Rory, like Rory. Oh yeah, we can't put Tyrrell Hatton and Rory together, and we can't put Fleetwood and Rory together. We just saw that with one of the buckets. I can't remember which one it was, but we did talk about it. So what do? We go what? Rory, maybe Wyndham Clark, maybe Tom Kim. It's an interesting way to build. There's three guys that we could build lineups around. I don't mind that. But anyways, look at these projections. Figure out a way to start your lineups with some of these that have over 1 in the minimum, and go from there. Again, I'm not going to talk about all of the golfers in these buckets. There's still the marquee tee times to look at, so it's not really, I don't want to get too excited about which golfers we should play, which golfers we should not. So I'm going to leave it right here when it comes to the strokes gained buckets. If you have any questions on how to read the bucket system or look at the cheat sheet, once again, link you can find to that cheat sheet in the description below. If you got any questions, leave them in the comment section. Not only will that help you out because I'll answer it, it'll help the community out who might even have the same questions, and it also gets you a free entry into 2 giveaways. One, the monthly giveaway, and another, the weekly giveaway. Weekly giveaway, I give $5 away. Monthly giveaway, if we reach the goal of 600 subscribers that you see all the way over there to the left, we're at 570. If we can reach 600, I'll give away $50. If not, I give away a t-shirt. Give away something. I like to reward those that are participating on the channel. So I don't have anything else to talk about in this preview. I think lineup building is going to be super fun this week with 5Ks in the mix, and also trying to figure out what to do with the 10Ks. That'll be really, really interesting. So yeah, if you have any questions, comment them down below or email me at SweetSpotDFS@gmail.com or DM me on Twitter, and I will get back to you one way or another. And I will have the optimizer ready tomorrow once we get tee times. So I'll plug in those tee times, figure out all the marquee tee times, update the optimizer, and I'll have it ready for anyone who would like to use it. Now, again, we have kind of a short week because Wednesday at 10 p.m. I'm not sure if that's Central Standard Time or if it's here. Let me take a look right now because it'll tell me how many hours I've got left in my contest. Wednesday, 11 p.m. So 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is lineup lock. So make sure you get your lineups built by then. And if you do want the optimizer, I will try to send it out as soon as I can. I don't know when it'll be. It might be early Tuesday morning. It might be Tuesday afternoon. It definitely will be before I go live, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I go live. I talk about the marquee tee times. I finish up the rest of the sweet spot process, and then I get into lineup building. And then we can talk rainmakers if you'd like as well. So that is all available to you guys. I think that's it. I don't have any other reminders. I mean, I guess what I could do is throw this one up there. Again, be subscribed, comment down below. If you're not on PrizePicks yet, I have this giveaway. If you sign up using the promo code SweetSpot and put $20 in your account, I'm going to give you $20 back. But PrizePicks will match your deposit, whatever it is, up to $100. So if you want to put more money in your account, put more. But if you want to play this for free, just put $20 in. At the end of the day, you have $40, and you're getting all your money back. So it's not going to cost you anything except for that sign up information and the initial deposit. Check the link down below. Check the check all the links in the description below for all the information regarding SweetSpotDFS and everything that I have to offer. So, with that being said, I'm going to bid you adieu. We'll see you tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Once again, live video, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you tomorrow. All right, bye.